Shareholders at large companies are much more active in monitoring the ways companies conduct day-to-day business. Recent activities suggest they are influencing business practices and other things like the use of corporate cash. The practice is called shareholder activism, and it has its supporters and its critics. For perspective on this topic, our very own Jim Russell, U.S. Bank's senior equity strategist, is joined by U.S. Bank portfolio manager Nolan Kamerer in this morning's Economic 360. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Peg. We're very pleased to have Nolan Kamerer with us on the show today. He's going to talk to us a little bit about shareholder activism. Nolan does great work for our clients at U.S. Bank Wealth Management. So shareholder activism, that's something that we're hearing a little bit more in the local and national media. How is this defined exactly, and what is it that these activists do in order to gain a little bit of influence with the companies to push their agenda?
Sure. So shareholder activism is basically an institution such as a hedge fund or an individual who purchases shares in a company with the intent of increasing shareholder return and influencing change amongst management. Now, typically they buy about a 5% share in the company's stock, and they take those voting rights and try to obtain a seat on the board of directors, which allows them to more easily influence change in the company.
So have a seat at the table, maybe influence some of the company decisions then.
Exactly.
Is that right? So is this kind of activity maybe growing in popularity, and, you know, does it appear that it impacts you and I, shareholders, in that it influences the market prices of the companies that they tend to speak to?
So it absolutely is gaining in popularity. In fact, you've probably seen more headlines in the news, as well as activists such as Carl Icahn or Bill Ackman on CNBC more often now. And this can all be attributed to kind of one word, and that's cash. Activists, hedge funds have increased cash balances by 50% over the last year to $90 billion. And then companies have had increasing cash balances where activists see that and think they have an opportunity to come in, maybe get the company to increase share buyback or dividends, which goes right to shareholders. And then lastly, companies have been more willing to make changes when activists get involved. In fact, in the last year, there are 10 separate occasions where companies sold off pieces of the business or broke the company up directly because of shareholder activists.
So they are making a difference.
Absolutely.
Right? Maybe a couple of ideas come to the table that are pretty good on occasion. And so that really leads us into then maybe another question, and that is, probably there's some positive and negative aspects to this. Can see that maybe some good ideas are brought to the table, and perhaps even it would be viewed as a distraction on occasion. Are there some positives and negatives here?
Absolutely. So from a positive standpoint, they can bring new ideas to management. Sometimes management is so focused on their long-term strategy that they miss opportunities in the short term to enhance returns. And also, the results have spoken for themselves. So 48% return over a 6-month period on average when activists get involved.
That's quite a bit.
So it's a good return and outpaces the S&P. Now, on the negative side, there are some things that worry people. It can be a distraction to management. They have the long-term strategy. It might be a great one in place, and management has to be pulled away from the day-to-day activity because of activists. And then in addition to that, activists tend to have a short time horizon. They get in, they make the changes, and then they get out of the stock, where you and I might be more long-term investors. And these short-term changes could influence long-term profitability of companies.
Understand. So a bit of a balance, just like many things in life, right?
Absolutely.
Well, Nolan, thank you very much for visiting with us today. Sure, we'll have you back. Great topic today. Peg, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Jim and Nolan.